The conflicting history of Mario re-releases.
1993 saw the release of Super Mario All-Stars, one of the first Mario re-releases. This was a collection released for the SNES that included upgraded ports of Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, and the Lost Levels,
Damn.
all with overhauled 16-bit graphics and updated sound. The game also included a save feature for each game, which was one of its biggest selling points. This was also the first time that the Lost Levels, which was the Japanese version of Super Mario Bros. 2, was officially released in other parts of the world. So now everyone had the chance to experience hell. An updated version of this game was released in 1994 that also included Super Mario World, putting all 5 games on a single cartridge. In retrospect, I would say this is one of the best collections that Mario has ever gotten. The SNES didn't have backwards compatibility with NES games, so having a collection with all of the NES Mario games but with new updates and features is really damn cool. But Mario All-Stars was only the beginning of Mario's conflicting history with re-releases. Jumping ahead a few years, Super Mario Bros. Deluxe was released in 1999 for the Game Boy Color. Now this is a good re-release. This game ports the first Super Mario Bros. As well as the Lost Levels to Game Boy Color, but with a handful of new additions and modes. Each game now has a world map, which allows you to switch between playing as Mario and Luigi freely. The games are also filled with updated animations and other quality of life improvements like save states. But the main appeal of this new package is the selection of new game modes. First up is Challenge Mode. This mode has you going through the levels while collecting red coins and Yoshi eggs. Getting these collectibles and higher scores unlocks medals. You can also unlock additional awards and pictures that can be viewed in the game's toy box. You vs. Boo is a mode that has you racing against a Boo, but the Boo has a major advantage as it can pass through walls and other obstacles. Fortune Teller is a fun little novelty that has the player picking a random card and getting a fortune read to them. The game even has a built-in calendar. Super Mario Bros. Deluxe is filled to the brim with content. For what it is, I would consider this game to be one of the best re-releases we're going to talk about in this video. The rest of the 2D Mario lineage also got handheld versions with the Super Mario Advance series. A total of 4 games in the series were released for the Game Boy Advance in the early 2000s. We have updated versions of Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, and Super Mario Bros. 3. Just whatever you do, don't look at the titles. Why the hell is Super Mario Bros. 3 the 4th advance game, while Yoshi's Island is the 3rd and Mario 2 is the 1st? Okay. All 4 of these have the usual stuff. Bug fixes, quality of life improvements, the whole 9 yards. I will say though, I'm not a huge fan of how these games look. Compared to their original versions, the colors look a lot more yellowed and washed out. It looks kinda weird. That aside, each game has a bit of extra content to add more value. Mario 2 has a new Yoshi Challenge mode that has you looking for Yoshi eggs, which is very similar to Mario Deluxe's Challenge mode. Mario World doesn't really have much new content, but it does feature a few level design differences. Yoshi's Island has some level design differences as well, along with 6 brand new levels. Mario 3 also has a handful of new levels, but these were unlocked by using the e-reader accessory and its cards. Nintendo and their DLC, I tell ya. I think all of these ports get the job done fine enough. At the end of the day, they're just handheld versions of old 2D Mario games, with some bonuses. What is there to hate? Moving into the DS era, we have Super Mario 64 DS, which was a launch title for the console. Oh god, I'm just going to get this out of the way real quick. I do not like Super Mario 64 DS for numerous reasons. You see, one of the main marketing gimmicks behind the DS was that it was N64 power in your pocket, which was a big deal, and they released Super Mario 64 DS, a full remake of Super Mario 64, as a demonstration of this claim. But if you ask me, it just makes too many changes to the original game. We now have 4 playable characters, with Yoshi, Luigi, and Wario being added to the roster. Each of these characters has a different ability. Luigi can high jump, Yoshi can eat stuff and flutter jump, and Wario can punch these black bricks. They also each have an exclusive power-up. My main issue here is that there are many stars that are locked behind playing as specific characters, which honestly wouldn't be that big of a deal if all of them didn't suck to play as. This was a DS game, so you had to control the characters with the D-pad, meaning that you had a total of 8 possible directions you could move in. The physics were also made a lot stiffer, making platforming very difficult at times. There are also weird unnecessary changes to the controls. Like, now there's a run button for some reason. Okay. The game is very weirdly structured as well. You start the game as Yoshi, and you have to save Mario, who then saves Luigi, who then saves Wario. It's just weird. I will give the game some credit though, because it does introduce a few things that I do like. Having 30 extra stars is a very welcome addition. I will never say no to new content. The mini-games are fantastic and honestly are probably the best part of the game. And the redone visuals, while lacking some of the charm the original game had, do look very nice and are very impressive for the hardware. But yeah, honestly, I would say Super Mario 64 DS is the worst re-release we've talked about so far. The main issue at the end of the day is the controls. If those were more refined, the game could have been really damn good. But as it stands now, I definitely prefer the original game. You might be aware by now that the original model of the Wii was backwards compatible with GameCube games, but that didn't stop Nintendo from still re-releasing certain GameCube games on the Wii, like Mario Power Tennis for example. This game was re-released as a part of the new Play Control line of games. This short-lived lineup consisted of re-releases of GameCube games with added motion controls and some other very minor quality of life improvements. In the case of Mario Power Tennis, they also added a widescreen option, so that's nice, but unfortunately this version of the game kinda sucks compared to how it is on GameCube. Having motion controls is a nice option in concept, but for one, it isn't an option in this game. You are required to use the motion controls, and for two, they suck balls. So while I guess having widescreen is a nice option, I don't think the terrible controls are worth the upgrade. The Wii was also home to Super Mario All-Stars. Yes, the same Super Mario All-Stars from the SNES. They did a re-release of a re-release. This was released to coincide with Mario's 25th anniversary. But my god, I can't help but notice how lazy this feels. The game itself is the same. Absolutely nothing was changed. It even shows the SNES controls still. Oh, and by the way, this is the version without Super Mario World included. They didn't even bother repackaging the better package. The main appeal of this whole deal was what you got with the game. For a limited time, things like a Mario History art book and a soundtrack CD were included, which is nice, but it's like, bro, what's the point? You have Virtual Console on the Wii, which is quite literally the exact same thing as this. I guess it's nice having a physical version, but still, this just seemed like a very lazy celebration of Mario's anniversary. Speaking of Mario's anniversary, a port of Super Mario Maker was released for the 3DS in 2016, a whole year after the Wii U version. In concept, this made a lot of sense. The Wii U version heavily used the dual screens of the TV and the Wii U gamepad, so having a completely portable version that utilizes the dual screens of the 3DS sounds fantastic. The problem a lot of other people and I have with this version is its limitations. It's missing a lot of features from the Wii U version, the most notable one being the ability to share your levels online. In the 3DS version, you can only share them locally. The only online connectivity you have here is playing a select batch of random courses from the Wii U version. That one change already removes half of the appeal of Mario Maker for me. The other half, making your courses, is also very limiting. The performance just chugs at times, especially when you place too many objects in one spot. So yeah, while again, Mario Maker 3DS was a really cool concept, it definitely wasn't perfect. On the other hand, Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World is a great port. I love Woolly World to death. It's probably my favorite game in the Yoshi series. So having a completely portable version of that is pretty damn cool. Nothing of note was sacrificed in this port either. Every single level, costume, and boss fight is fully intact here. The controls are also exactly the same. Sure, we have some differences, like the world map being a 2D side-scroller instead of 3D, but who gives a f***? Okay, they did remove multiplayer, which does kinda suck, yeah, but to make up for that, they added some new content. There are even more costumes than there were in the original game. Oh, and let's just look at the title real quick. Poochie in Yoshi's Woolly World. What does that mean? There are now a handful of auto-runner levels to play starring Poochie. You just gotta clear them by meeting certain criteria. And they're pretty easy, yeah. But still, super fun. The game graphically obviously took a hit. You can still hit 60 FPS by playing this game on one of the new 3DS models, but unfortunately, if you're stuck on an older model, you have to deal with 30 FPS. But honestly, I can look past that. This is a very faithful port. Hell, it's probably the most faithful port out of any of the other 3DS ports. I'm just upset that they decided to put this game on 3DS a month before the Switch came out, instead of just porting it to Switch. I would have much rather had a port of this game than whatever the hell this was supposed to be. Luigi's Mansion also got a 3DS version, and yes, this is yet another instance where I'm questioning why this game was put on 3DS and not Switch. This is a really good remake. I love Luigi's Mansion so much. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And this is how I played it for the first time. Pretty much everything is here from the original. The only differences are things like the control scheme and visuals. When it comes to how the game looks now, I'm pretty indifferent to it. It still captures that spooky vibe of the original game quite well, so I have no complaints there. The main edition of Luigi's Mansion 3DS is Gooigi. You can now roam the mansion with a second player, and it's great. It's super fun playing through the entire game with a friend, and I'm still really glad this feature carried over to Luigi's Mansion 3. But yeah, I really have nothing else to say here. This is a great remake. Hope you enjoyed that little positive detour, because now we're back to some bullshit. Well, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. Let's take a quick look at the Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story remakes. Why do these exist? Okay, Superstar Saga is kind of understandable. It was a GBA game that definitely could have benefited from a remake / remaster. But Bowser's Inside Story? The DS game? The DS game that you can play on every model of the 3DS? What was the point? Oh, right. Money. That didn't really work out, now did it, Nintendo? If you ask me, I do not like the new visual style they went with. I think it looks very generic. The colors are nice, I'll give it that, but there's just something about the original sprite work that I liked so much more. It also doesn't help that these remakes run at 30 FPS as opposed to the 60 FPS of the original games. I guess it's not a huge deal for a game like this, but still. Both ports do have their fair share of quality of life improvements, which is nice, but I'm still just having a hard time seeing what makes these games so appealing. Okay, I'll stop. Both of these games have brand new campaigns. In Superstar Saga, we have Bowser's Minions, and in Bowser's Inside Story, we have Bowser Jr.'s Journey. Each of these campaigns adds around 6 to 10 hours of gameplay to their respective games, which I can admit is really damn solid. But man, it just sucks that the actual remakes themselves look and perform worse than their original counterparts, at least in my opinion. I think a game that could have benefited from a remake like this is Partners in Time. That game had a much more outdated visual aesthetic, especially compared to Bowser's Inside Story, but they just skipped over that game and went straight to remake Bowser's Inside Story instead. That's a shame. Now we're finally moving into the Switch era of re-releases. Re-releases. Jesus Christ, I'm tired of saying that. And holy shit, man, there are a lot. Starting with Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. This is an interesting one. Not only did this game get a Switch port, but it also got a 3DS port on the same day. Okay, I see how it is now. Woolly World and Luigi's Mansion get to be stuck on 3DS, but this game gets a Switch port? What the hell? The Switch version and the 3DS version are very different from one another. Obviously, the Switch version is a lot more faithful to the original Wii U game. The main difference is that a lot of the things that once utilized the Wii U gamepad have been reworked for traditional controls. This version of the game also includes brand new levels based on Super Mario Odyssey, and the game now serves as a prequel to Odyssey instead of a prequel to 3D World. Thus, the 3D World levels have also been removed, which I'm not too upset by since they weren't actual Captain Toad levels. They were just 3D World levels, but you could now play them as Captain Toad. The Switch version eventually got the Special Episode DLC, adding even more content to the game. Now for the 3DS version, it also got the Mario Odyssey levels, which is nice, but this version of the game is very rough. The performance is much worse, the game looks worse, etc. It's even missing some levels. Normally, I would say that these trade-offs are worth having a portable version of the game, but this game was released on Switch day and day. I really don't see the point of the 3DS version in this case. The Switch version is still really good though. Next up, we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Yep, now we're getting to the true exclusive Switch re-releases. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was released only a month after the Switch's launch, and it quickly became the best-selling game on the console. And wow, this was and still is such a major upgrade to the original Wii U game. We have new characters, new vehicle parts, new Mii outfits, and other gameplay changes like having a third turbo boost and new items. And then we got even more characters and courses with the Booster Course Pass later down the line. But by far, the main appeal of 8 Deluxe at launch was its new and improved battle mode. The battle mode present in the original Mario Kart 8 was dog shit. It was definitely not one of their main priorities. We only had Balloon Battle, and the selection of courses available were main courses from the actual Grand Prix. There were no original battle tracks. So the developers made an effort to make Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's battle mode truly spectacular. And if you ask me, this is the best battle mode we've gotten in the entire series. We have a total of 5 different modes with 8 original battle courses. My favorite mode is definitely Renegade Roundup, which is a Mario Kart version of Cops and Robbers. We also have Bomb and Blast, Shine Thief, Coin Runners, and Balloon Battle, and they're all super fun. I still think Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is one of the best re-releases we got on the Switch. And New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is one of the worst. I don't even dislike New Super Mario Bros. U. I actually think it's a pretty good game, but compared to the original, this quote-unquote deluxe version only adds an easy mode with Toadette. She doesn't slip on ice, she has better swimming, and she can use the Super Crown to transform into Peachette. That's literally all they added to this game. Yes, one of their main selling points was that New Super Luigi U was now bundled in the package. But can we really call that an addition? There were already copies on the Wii U that had both games combined in one on the same disc. Why are we acting like this is something new? And actually, I would argue that Toadette's inclusion is worse for people who don't use her, because if you're playing with 4 people, one person has to play with one of the easy characters. For some odd reason, they put Yellow Toad and Blue Toad on the same slot, meaning that 2 players can't play as them simultaneously. And even if you're not playing as Toadette, you can still get the Super Crown power-ups that you can't use. So not only does this game barely add anything to the original, but it also makes additions that hinder the experience for the majority of players. Taking a break from Wii U ports for a second here, next up is Super Mario 3D All-Stars, a collection of 3 of Mario's 3D adventures remastered for Nintendo Switch. And that's remastered with a huge asterisk. This collection was released to coincide with Mario's 35th anniversary, and if you ask me, I would say it's a pretty decent package. Technically, the only game that's truly remastered here is Super Mario Galaxy. It got natively ported with a 1080p resolution bump. Sunshine and 64, on the other hand, are run entirely through emulation. Sunshine was also not enhanced to run at 60 FPS, same with 64, and that game doesn't have widescreen support like Sunshine now does. There were clearly a lot of corners cut with this collection. It really does feel like they just wanted to get something out for Mario's anniversary. It is nice having things like the soundtracks and the... Oh wait, no, that's literally it. That's the only extra content you get. And I still stand by the fact that this collection felt very incomplete without Galaxy 2. All of that didn't really matter in the end, however, because this was a limited time release. After 6 months, production of physical copies stopped altogether, and the digital release was removed from the eShop. Now the only ways to play these games on Switch are through Nintendo Switch Online and the newly released Galaxy Collection, which we'll talk about later. Sunshine isn't even out on Switch Online yet, and when it does come out, it will only be available on Switch 2. So 3D All-Stars will remain as the only way to play Sunshine on Switch 1. I think for what's here, Super Mario 3D All-Stars is a fine enough way to experience these games. But man, it could have been so much better. Back to the Wii U ports, holy shit. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury might genuinely be the best Mario game you could buy. Not only did they include an enhanced port of 3D World with refined controls, new abilities, enhanced visuals, and other quality of life improvements, but they also threw in a separate campaign called Bowser's Fury, which is a completely different game. I won't get too in-depth into Bowser's Fury here because I think it deserves its own video, but man, this truly feels like a blueprint for what the next 3D Mario game is going to be. This is a fully open world game with several islands for you to travel to using Plessy. Each of these islands acts as its own mini-stage, each of which has 5 cat shines to collect. But that's not all. Fury Bowser also shows up, and you have to use the Giga Belt to turn into Big Cat Mario to take him down. It's such an interesting mechanic to include in a game like this, and it works so well. It keeps you alert when you're exploring the islands. Considering that 3D World and Bowser's Fury are 2 of my favorite Mario games, it wouldn't be ridiculous to call this bundle one of the best, if not the best, Mario games of all time. It is without a doubt the best Mario re-release we have ever gotten. And if you haven't played these games yet, do yourself a favor and pick this collection up. You won't regret it. Moving back into remake territory, let's talk about Super Mario RPG for Nintendo Switch. This is one of the weirdest Mario remakes, if you ask me. I remember back when this first got revealed, I was just expecting them to put the original Super Mario RPG on Switch Online. But no, we instead got a full remake of the game with completely overhauled visuals and music. And I'm pretty mixed on it, not gonna lie. The game for the most part remains the same gameplay-wise. There have been some slight changes to things like enemy attacks, along with some slight gameplay tweaks, but the visuals are the main thing here. Instead of being 2D sprite-based, the visuals are now entirely composed of 3D models and HD textures. Obviously, the visual fidelity is now a lot higher, but I think the updated art style looks a lot more generic. It kind of loses that charm and mood that the original game went for. I'm also not really sold on the character designs either. Short Mario is funny and all, but that design just works better with a 2D sprite if you ask me. I still think the remake is a fine enough way to play this game, but I would much rather play the original. Another Switch remake is Mario vs. Donkey Kong. This overhauls the original game with modernized visuals and music. You know, the usual stuff. But it also has a significant amount of new content. We have a handful of new modes, including an easy difficulty, a time attack mode, and a multi multiplayer mode. The game also adds 2 brand new worlds, bringing the total number of worlds up to 8. I don't have much input to give on this game since I haven't played it, but from what I've seen, this looks like a pretty solid remake. But Paper Mario The Thousand Year Doors remake is fantastic. This game was released near the end of the Switch's life in 2024 and completely overhauls the original Thousand Year Door visually. Everything has more detailed reflections, better lighting, better color, just everything here looks breathtaking. The soundtrack has also been fully remixed, and the new compositions sound phenomenal. There are some new gameplay changes as well, with one of the most notable changes being an improved fast travel system, which is very useful for a lot of the segments that require you to do a lot of backtracking. The main downside to this remake is that it runs at 30 FPS, whereas the original game ran at 60. While that does kinda suck, I think the new visuals are worth it entirely. I really hope this game gets a Switch 2 patch or a Switch 2 edition, because playing this game in 4K with 60 FPS would be a dream. Alright, what's next? You know, I just really don't get this company. You release one of the greatest remakes slash re-releases slash ports or whatever the of a Mario game, and then you turn around and release one of the worst. Only a month later. What the hell happened with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD? Actually, I got a better question. Why this game? The first game was right there. But you know what? Maybe that was for the better, because Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is one of the laziest ports in the entire series. What they did was take the 3DS version, make it playable with standard controls, and bump up the resolution to 1080p. I guess the character models and some other objects got updated, but the rest of the game has very flat and basic textures. This is a full $60 HD port that looks super bland for 2024 standards. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that the game is now locked at 30 FPS. There is no reason why this game couldn't run at 60, which is what the original game targeted. It's just such a weird port, and definitely one of Nintendo's laziest. Jumping ahead to 2025, Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 were remastered on Switch 1, both separately and as a bundle. Now, you might be thinking, what is the point of buying another version of Mario Galaxy if you already have 3D All-Stars? Well, there is no point, I guess. These two are practically the same games as they've always been. They've just been updated with refined controls to work better on the Nintendo Switch. That, and there's also some added goodies like an assist mode and mouse mode on Switch 2. Each game does have a slight bit of extra content as well. The storybook has been updated in Galaxy 1 with an epilogue chapter, and a brand new storybook has been added to Galaxy 2 with 4 of its own chapters. But man, it's so nice to finally have a port of Galaxy 2 on the go. I've been waiting for this for so damn long. And now, with the Switch 2, you can play both games at native 4K, which is absolutely stunning.
Damn,
these are
cool.
definitely the definitive ways to play these games. Yes, it does suck that you have to pay $70 for 2 Wii ports, but looking past that, these are really good remasters. Now, all we have left are the Switch 2 editions of Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Super Mario Party Jamboree. I don't really see these as re-releases, but more so as glorified DLC, but sure, let's just talk about them. I recently made a whole video about the Switch 2 edition of Mario Wonder, so definitely go check that out if you're interested, but
like
long story
Mario
short,
Wonder.
I think this is one of the best Switch 2 editions we've gotten so far. Even excluding the multiplayer exclusive content, it has so much new single player content as well. I can't really say much about Jamboree Switch 2 edition since I don't have it, and I don't plan on getting it, but from what I heard, the new minigames added are not worth the upgrade, and apparently the base game doesn't even get a visual upgrade, so that sucks.
Damn.
But yeah, that's Mario's conflicting history of re-releases. It's really fascinating to me how drastically different some of these games are from one another, especially in terms of quality. I hope for the future, if and when we do get more ports, remasters, and remakes of Mario games, Nintendo takes notes from games like 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, and not Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Anyway, let me know what you all think about these games in the comments down below. But that's all for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.